Hi, and welcome to the October 2018 Native Trails District Roundtable. I'm Jennifer Whitaker. I'm District Director for the district. If you haven't met me yet, I know we have a lot of new leaders. Hey, I look forward to meeting you soon. With me today, I have Fred Hassman. Fred, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Fred Hassman. My current role right now is in the Native Trails District Advancement Chair. I was a Scoutmaster for about 10 years, crew advisor for about 6 years. I'm still very involved in Scouts. Both my sons are Eagle Scouts, and I am so committed to Scouting that I refuse to quit.
Fred's experience as a Scoutmaster is going to be very important for what our topic is for the day, which is the Webelos to Scout transition. But first, let's cover a few basics. If you are working on a Leader Training Award and want credit for attending 4 roundtables, make sure to add your name in the comments below. We hope you find this roundtable helpful. We encourage you to have conversations in the comments section below. Ask questions, give advice, and remember, a Scout is friendly and kind. So now we've got some announcements. Your Popcorn Blitz Weekend prize forms are due to iCamp Scout Center by Friday, October 5th, so tomorrow. All Scouts who sold a total of $250 the first weekend of the popcorn sale are eligible to receive the Blitz Weekend prize. Remember that your new Scouts who just started this year or this season will actually have a $50 coupon towards that Popcorn Blitz prize. So they only need to sell $200. Immediate recognition is important, so it's really important that you don't wait until the end of the sale to come and pick up your Blitz Weekend prizes. We want you to come and get those now from the office. If you need us to meet you somewhere with those prizes, we would be happy to do that. But it's very important for you to get those to your Scouts as soon as possible to encourage them to keep going in their popcorn sales. All popcorn orders are due to iCamp Scout Center by 3 p.m. on Thursday, October 25th. I hope your first week of the sale went really well, and we're really looking forward to see how those numbers come in. Units will need to plan to pick up their take order popcorn on Friday, November 7th at Warehouse Services Incorporated. That's where we've been doing the pickup for the last couple of years. Units that help sort popcorn on Thursday, November 6th, will get to take their product that evening. So if you'd like to get your product on Thursday night for delivery to your families on Friday or Saturday, you can certainly help us with popcorn sort. No one under the age of 18 should be in our sorting warehouse, and please remember that flip-flops and open-toed shoes are not allowed. Popcorn payments are all due to the council office no later than November 27th by 3 p.m. In order to get any bonuses, if you qualified for increase in sales to get more money back to your unit, please have that money in on time, November 27th.
All right, I'll make an announcement. We want to thank all the volunteers that helped out at Cub Scout Fall Fun Day. Troop 301, 315, and 374, especially for running the fun and engaging the scout stations for the Cub Scouts. All right, you go.
No, actually, the Fall Fun Day was really great, and again, that leads into some of what we're going to discuss today and how those troops were actively out there working with Cub Scouts. And so the Cub Scouts are seeing the troops, and it might actually benefit them later on when they're trying to recruit those Webelos into their programs.
And also, I think that I saw both Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts had a great time. They worked very, very well together too, so that was very, very encouraging.
We'd also like to thank those who participated in Native Trails Scouting for Food Drive. We collected over 3,000 pounds for the Tri-State Food Bank, plus units were able to donate several items to their local churches and to the VA Center. Scouts gave 700 service hours to their community through our food drive, and we really appreciate all those units who participated. Wiz of Webelos will take place November 3rd and 4th this year. Webelos are invited to camp and learn skills from older Scouts. Again, back to that Webelos to Scout transition topic. Activities will include fire building, first aid, knot tying, cooking, and more. Cub Scout leaders, do you know about BALOO training? BALOO stands for Basic Adult Leader Outdoor Orientation. Every pack needs at least one BALOO trained person at every outdoor activity and camp out. The more people in your pack with BALOO training, the easier it will be for the pack to plan outdoor adventures. The next course will be offered Friday, October 19th through Sunday, October 21st at Old Bend Scout Reservation. So get your leaders signed up for that training as soon as possible.
It's also a good excuse. The Baloo training is also a good excuse for the adults to be Cub Scouts for a weekend too. So that's one thing I like about it. I'll be there that weekend.
And I think another great thing about our trainings that take place up at Old Bend is you get to meet a lot of really, really active volunteers and kind of ask questions and find out examples of things that they've been through and really get to know people and kind of build a resource base for future activities and events. Are you a new Cub Master, Den Leader, or Pack Committee member? Trainings for all of these positions will be offered November 1st at Salem United Methodist Church. This is our November Roundtable. And learn from Scouters who have been in your position and discuss best practices with leaders from other packs. So if you haven't had training or if you've changed positions, maybe you went from being a committee member to a Den Leader, it's a really great opportunity to refresh some of your information about programs and get to know other leaders who are going through the same thing as you. Training is really important for our programs, and we recommend that every Scout deserve a trained leader. How about you take one?
How about Boy Scout leaders and venture crew advisors? We also have training for you guys. The Introduction to Outdoor Leadership Skills is actually the same weekend at the Baloo, which is Friday, October 19th through the 21st. We have some really great activities planned. I'm helping to plan this activity, and it's encouraged for, it's required for Scoutmaster training and Assistant Scoutmaster training. But it's also a great weekend. I encourage all leaders to go to this activity, and you get to be a Boy Scout for a weekend. So that's one reason why I like going to it.
So get trained in your scouting position or take supplemental training at University of Scouting, which is coming up on Saturday, November 17th. This is open to all Cub Scout and Boy Scout leaders, and we do have some training available to youth as well. Classes will be offered for Scout leaders at all levels. Just a few classes being offered are Beyond the Basics for Cub Masters, Crazy for Science, Den Chief Training, we're going to talk about that, Dutch Oven and Foil Cooking, Unit Leader Succession Planning. All of you guys, if you're planning to move on, you might want to attend this session. And then Working with Scouts with ADHD. So all of these are really probably impacting many of you leaders out there, and that's just a few of the trainings that are going to be offered for you. So that's it for announcements. Check out the October Need to Know page linked in the description below for extra information and links to sign up for events and trainings. Be sure to send someone from your pack, troop, or crew to November's Roundtable at Salem United Methodist Church. This is where we're going to be handing out the unit recharter packets for February. All recharter packets will be due back to us by the end of January so that we can get that information entered, catch any errors before the recharter actually occurs officially on March 1st. The November Roundtable will be dedicated to training, and so it's a really great opportunity for you to send any of your new leaders as well so that they can get trained. Come take Cub Master training, Den Leader training, Pack Committee training, or a course on using the online recharter system. Now, Fred and I are going to talk to you a little bit more about Webelos to Scout transition. This impacts both Cub Scout packs and Boy Scout troops, so it's really important to stay on so that you can see what we're going to discuss. The passage from Cub Scouts to Scout troop should be smooth, with no time lost in between. By the time Webelos Scouts are ready to cross over, they and their families should be familiar and comfortable working with the troop leaders that they're going to be joining and the youth and the programs that they're going to join. The Webelos Scouts graduation ceremony should clearly signify his or her crossover into that new family. And it should actually be an opportunity for you to present the Arrow of Light to some of your boys. It might be a great opportunity to present a Scout handbook, and traditionally a troop will then present your Scout with his neckerchief. So Fred, as a Scoutmaster for 10 years, I think you've probably got a lot of great experience getting boys crossed over. Fred traditionally ran a unit that was anywhere from 55 to 65 Scouts on a pretty consistent basis when he was a Scoutmaster, which is why we asked him to help us with our program today to talk to you about Webelos to Scout transition and how important it is for both programs to coordinate and work together. So Fred, what are some things that a pack might want to do in order to be ready for that Webelos crossover?
I think one of the key things is to try to stress the desire, the need for Scouts to move on to enter Boy Scouts. Cub Scouts is the cornerstone of scouting, the scouting movement, but also it doesn't end as a Webelos. It continues on. It continues on through Boy Scouts. It actually continues on through your whole life. Stressing that part of it and how Boy Scouts can actually help further their knowledge in scouting missions and activities, as well as stress with the packs of how fun Boy Scouts are. I mean, I'm having so much fun I refuse to quit. So I've been doing this for quite a while. I think as a pack, it's good to invite troops to come to their pack meetings and to do flag ceremonies or to have certain activities in a pack meeting. That way the Cub Scouts will see the Boy Scouts in action. They'll see them doing things and see how they interact with one another and with as a unit as well. So the Cub Scouts are very impressionable. They look up to older boys, older Scouts, and so the opportunity for these Boy Scouts to come to these Scout pack activities and den activities, it's a really good opportunity for the Cub Scouts to see what we do in Boy Scouts.
So one of the things I've learned that packs should be doing is, one, first of all, the relationship between the pack and the troop is really on both sides. The troops should be reaching out to the packs now to try and build those relationships, but packs should really be looking at several different troops in their area and trying to build relationships with each of those troops so that they can visit and learn how the different pack troops operate and kind of give their boys a variety of experiences so they really have a good understanding of where they might want to go.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think looking at different units, troops is actually very, very important for Webelos to move into Boy Scouts, because every Boy Scout unit, they have their own culture, their own way of doing things. No unit is the same, and it's important for the Webelos Scout to find a fit for them, fit for their personality, fit for their activities, even as much as the days of the week the meetings take place. But I think it's important to visit at least 3 different troops when you're looking for a troop to join. It doesn't have to have the same three numbers as your Cub Scout uniform. There's my unit 352 in Newburgh. We didn't really have a pack with 352. We had 4 other packs in the area, and I would recruit through all of them and talk to the Scouts, Webelos Scouts individually and as a den. As a Scoutmaster, I recruited all year round, not just in the fall. We would also have campouts for Webelos to come and visit, and normally units will have those campouts in the fall time period, about this time period now, and it's a Webelos weekend, but it doesn't have to be just that time. But the goal is to get the Webelos Scouts to just get a flavor of the activities that a Boy Scout troop does. The more the Webelos are involved in a troop, either by coming to campouts or coming to troop meetings, the more likely they are to get a flavor of what that troop is like and whether they fit or not.
So I would also suggest that packs would reach out to the troops that they might be interested in visiting and get a copy of their troop calendar. By comparing your calendar with the other troops' calendars, you can kind of coordinate different community events or activities that you might be able to do together. This would be a really great way for not just your Webelos Scouts to kind of start becoming familiar with the troops in the area, but also for the younger boys, because they need something to look forward to. So by comparing calendars and setting up a schedule that would be kind of fitting for them might be a great idea.
Yeah, I think one interesting thing that was mentioned to me is that there's a troop in the area that actually will organize a camp out for a pack, and that's usually right after Roundup. And so one of the first campouts that the Cub Scouts, new Cub Scouts, will actually be involved in as a campout is a troop organize camp out, and that's a great idea because the more you can expose these Webelos Scouts and all Cub Scouts to the Boy Scouts and to the functioning and the activities of Boy Scouts, the more likely are they to have transitions. Another interesting thing about transitioning into Boy Scouts is I think one of the best opportunities I've seen or the best ratio of Webelos transitioning into Boy Scouts is the Den Chief, which you mentioned earlier about having training on that at the University of Scouting. Den Chiefs are actually, it's a Boy Scout that actually helps coordinate den activities at a pack. And it can be down as low as lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. But it could be, and the more that a Boy Scout goes and works with those Scouts throughout the years, then the higher the transition into Boy Scouts we've seen. A lot of times the Den Chief is just responsible for like the games at a den meeting or whatever the den leader wants them to do. It is actually the Den Chief position is actually a leadership position in Boy Scouts, so which is one of the advancement requirements for certain ranks of Boy Scouts. But it also shows that it works for both. It works for the Boy Scout and for the Cub Scout, because the Boy Scout learns leadership skills. It learns how to interact with Scouts and people of different ages, and then with the Cub Scouts, they see a Boy Scout in action. They see him living by the Scout Law and Scout Oath, and they look up to him. It's amazing how observant boys and girls are, especially when looking at older boys and girls too.
That's great that you said girls. I have a tendency to keep saying boys,
Yeah.
but I do realize that we have girls in our program that are going to be crossing over now, and we'll soon be calling it Scouts BSA starting in February, so maybe we should start using that term too.
Hard habit.
Some other things that I've noticed is that it's really important to plan a meaningful crossover ceremony for your Cub Scouts who are crossing over into a boy troop or a girl troop of Scouts BSA. That will be happening come as early as February 1. What can you tell me about crossover ceremonies and maybe some ideas or things that work well?
Mm-hmm. Crossovers actually, to me, are very, very important for these Webelos Scouts. For one thing, it's a celebration of their journey through Scouting. And another thing that I like about it is it shows that they're traveling through Scouting, but it doesn't end. There's a crossover period. There's a period where they go from being boys and girls to young men and young women, and I think that's very important. And that's where most crossover ceremonies have this bridge where they cross over. I think that's a really good symbol to show that they're going from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts, but it's still the same journey. It's just a little hill to go over. And it's a time for the families to celebrate the achievements of that Cub Scout through all the years, but also it's a time to look forward as to the fun things they're going to be doing as a Boy Scout too. And it's really interesting to see how eager the Scouts, the Boy Scouts, are on the other side of the bridge, and how they all take turns, putting the neckerchief on and shaking hands with them, and being excited to have these new young Scouts in their unit. I like it.
So just to reiterate, on the pack side of things, the pack should maintain records of all of the second year Webelos that will be crossing over. You want to keep those kids on record and engaged. Secondly, make sure you have an interesting program and fun program for those Webelos to keep them going until it's time to cross over. And then finally, communicate with your parents in your program so your Webelo parents are understanding of what you're working towards in the transition and how that should all kind of work together to get your boys or girls moving into a Scouts BSA troop. And then communicate with the troops that are in the area, especially if you have girls in a Webelos program. You're going to need to be reaching out and finding out where those troops are that are going to have girls next year. And so start kind of building those relationships and open that line of communication now. If you need any help with any of that, you can always call the Scout office, talk to District Executive Abby Roberts or myself. We can give you contact information for the different units in your area, for potential troops that will have girls in them in the spring, and any other options or information that you might need to help make this Webelos to Scout transition successful. So now let's move on to the troops and what the troops might need to do in order to start working on that communication link.
Okay, like I mentioned before, I think the most important thing a troop could do is actually have den chiefs in different packs, as in different dens. That's very, very helpful. Also, I think it's important for the troop to reach out to the different packs as well, especially the Webelos Scouts, but not necessarily just the Webelos. You know, have the packs come to pack meetings, or have the troops come to pack meetings, have them come to den meetings, have them be an active participant in these activities, so that the Cub Scouts know what Boy Scouts are, and they've identified with Scouts. A lot of times these Scouts, Boy Scouts actually know some of these younger Cub Scouts through school activities. So there are different ways that so they already have a connection, and so maintain that connection that these Cub Scouts have with the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I noticed that the Webelos that crossed over from my son's pack last year, they went into a troop, and so we already have some boys that we were with for two or 3 years before they crossed over. And now we can always go and rejoin them if that's something we would want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one interesting thing, is because that sometimes the younger, as you're going through Cub Scouts, the Webelos will actually cross over into a troop, and then those Webelos that crossed over are now Boy Scouts, but they come back to those packs, and now they're the awesome kids. They're the symbol of what these Cub Scouts want to be, and that actually I think is a good drive for those Webelos Scouts to join that unit, because they already have a connection with people from their previous packs. But actually it also is important for the individual Scout to find a pack that works for them. So that's one thing. Just because one unit tends to take one Boy Scout troop tends to take a lot of Scouts from a certain pack, doesn't have to happen. You need to find one that works for your Scouts. I actually have a form which will be linked to this webcast that has a list for the Webelos Scouts when they visit a troop, of a checklist of how things to look for a troop. Do they have an annual calendar? Do they have does their senior patrol leader run the meetings? Different things like that. And it'll be on there. And if you have any questions about that too, you can feel free to contact me as well. I have no friends, so I do Scouts. And I'm willing to help this transition to these Scouts, because I think this is a very good opportunity for these Webelos to further their journey through Scouting.
So the Webelos to Scout transition is a super important time of a Scout's journey. First of all, they have to have a direction. They have to really have some understanding of what the changes are, because by this time in their scouting career, they're generally probably getting a little bit bored or a little anxious to move on from Cub Scouts. One thing I do know is that troops have a tendency, sometimes there are troops that have a tendency to just expect that the kids, the youth, the boys or the girls, will come over into their troop without really doing any of the work to get them there. And so I think that's an assumption that troops shouldn't make. And one really great example is a troop on the north side. I know that they have a really good relationship with the Cub Scout pack, and I recently heard that they actually plan the first camp out for the Cub Scout pack. So the Boy Scouts go and they camp for the weekend. They go up on Friday night, and then Saturday the Cub Scouts join them. So it's like the family camping program with the Boy Scout troop camping, and the Boy Scouts are there planning different activities for the Cub Scouts to do. And to me, that's a really great way to build a relationship with your Cub Scout pack, not just your Webelos, but it's a great way to get to know those leaders who will eventually be Webelos leaders, and to kind of make those boys feel comfortable coming into a troop.
Yeah, another really good opportunity for the Webelos Scouts to learn more about Boy Scouts is Woods of Webelos.
Yep, Woods of Webelos.
WOW, that's right. And actually, that's coming up in November, I believe. You
Yeah,
mentioned it
the first weekend of November.
Yeah. And that's actually the neat thing about that camping weekend is that the Boy Scout troops are actually organizing all these events. And so, and when the Webelos come to camp, there'll be the Boy Scout troops that will actually be running the programs, and so they get to see the Boy Scouts in action, and they get to learn some really great scouting activities and tools. But also, well, for the Webelos Scouts, have them talk to the Boy Scouts about their troops, talk about them about the things that encourages them to stay with Scouts, to be in Scouts, and different things. We tend to focus in Boy Scouts on becoming an Eagle Scout, and it's important, but also it's the journey through the Scout that I think is important. So doing all the fun things and awesome things, and as you're having fun, you're advancing at the same time, and that's really what's really awesome is that these activities, these campouts that you go on and things, are the important part of scouting, and then finally along the way, I become an Eagle Scout.
This will be the third year for our Woods of Webelos program up at Old Bend. And honestly, the first 2 years have had fantastic reviews for that program. I mean, the kids come out and they're having a great time. The leaders have come and said, wow, that was a really, really great opportunity for our Scouts. And if your troop isn't already involved with Woods of Webelos, I would imagine they're not going to turn away volunteers if you wanted to come up and help with an activity or in an area, or even just kind of act as a commissioner and go around to the pack campsites and kind of visit with those units and kind of talk to those kids about your experiences in the program.
It's a great opportunity for the Boy Scout units to recruit, and talk about their units to the Webelos Scouts. So I think that's a good idea. I mean, I helped with that last year too, and I had a ball. I mean, it was awesome. The excitement of the Webelos Scouts was just incredible, and then watching the Boy Scouts teach. I think I did knots, and having the Boy Scouts themselves teaching the knots and stuff like that was really awesome. And seeing the look of awe from these Webelos Scouts to these Boy Scouts was pretty amazing.
Some other ideas for Webelos to Scout transition and trying to build those relationships is to go ahead and start thinking about it at a younger age. So one suggestion was to conduct an orientation in the Bear Scouts dens to explain the changing role as youth become Webelos Scouts. So if a troop could go into a pack and talk to their Bear Scouts about the changes, so maybe something that they might consider doing in the fall, because that's going to change quite a bit as they graduate into the Webelo program. Also arrange for your Webelos dens to visit your troop, and don't expect that they're automatically going to come. You need to build those relationships now, and then plan an exciting and fun activity when those kids are coming over to visit. Make sure you're getting to know your den leaders. Bear den leaders generally will cross over and become the Webelos den leader, so working on that relationship earlier is going to help you kind of make them feel comfortable coming over and visiting your unit. And then possibly an idea was to conduct a Scoutmaster conference under the guidance of the Scoutmaster or the assistant designated by the Scoutmaster. The conference should cover the meaning of the Scout Oath and Law, the advancement program, troop camping, the patrol method, summer camp, and personal equipment with one of those Webelos dens. Just kind of go in and talk to those Webelos about what is the Scoutmaster conference. I think that can be pretty intimidating for a young guy.
Yeah, I think
girl.
The first time a Boy Scout in a troop goes to a Scoutmaster conference, they don't know what to expect. They think it's going to be a test. They think it's going to be really intimidating and stuff. It's basically, as a Scoutmaster, it's my responsibility to kind of just get to know the Scout. You don't have to have a Scoutmaster conference just for advancement. You can have it at any time. I would meet in my office, which is the Starbucks in Newburgh, where we would just meet for Scouts. Scouts which is they want to meet and talk about things. It doesn't necessarily have to be about Scouts. It could be about other things. But it's an opportunity for the Scoutmaster to learn and know more about the Scout. And I think a conference with the Scoutmaster and the Webelos Scouts is actually very important because it helps them understand more about what the process is. So that's kind of what a Scoutmaster conference is.
So in summary, the troop needs to really work on building relationships with those Cub Scout packs, not just the packs, but also the Bear Den leaders and the Webelos Den leaders preparing for that Webelos to Scout transition within a couple of years. Provide den chiefs from your troop to the Cub Scout packs. The Cub Scout packs may not be familiar with how to get a den chief, so if you are really wanting to get boys from that pack or the girls from that pack to cross over into one of your Scouts BSA programs, then you really should reach out to the packs and provide den chiefs for those programs, and then communicate. Again, it all comes down to good communication between the pack and the troop, or troop and several packs, to get them to cross over into your programs. Do you have anything else to add on Webelos to Scout transition?
Well, I think the main goal of both programs is to develop strong boys and girls for our country, and together as Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts we can do that. It's not, when you end Cub Scout, when you're finished Cub Scouts, it's not the end. It's the beginning, and it's the beginning of a lifelong adventure that will stick with you for the rest of your life. So, getting the packs and unit and troops together and having them talk to each other and talk about how to increase the transition, how to increase the packs membership and the troops membership is actually really, really important. So we should all be working together to build this the BSA organization to help all people.
I think that's a great summary. So remember, our roundtable in November will be an in-person roundtable with Cub Scout leader training and recharter training for anyone who needs help with the online recharter system. We'll have links to a lot of materials that will support a Webelos to Scout transition below, as well as the announcements that we talked about at the beginning of our evening. And then ask questions in the comments, and we will answer as soon as we can to make sure we're addressing any questions or concerns that you have about our discussion today. Thank you so much for visiting us, and have a great week.
Thanks. Bye.